How are you doing? This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, the founder of the highest paid part-time job in the world options trading program. And what we're really quickly going to go into is Market Mondays for 5/10/2021. And to really reiterate, if it's the first time you're here, can I get the like? Can I get the subscribe? Share it out if you think the content is really valuable. And we do Market Mondays to try to give you a market-based conversation. We try to keep it concise, but we try to make sure that you learn something, and we try to give you some information that you can go and apply to your life, and also help you bring the conversation right to your own networks. And what we want to do is give you a market-based conversation. And we don't want you to feel like you got to have a PhD, you got to have a background in maybe economics or finance, or you got to be one of those people on CNBC with a suit on to really talk about the markets and understand how it can benefit you. Now, the number one reason why we're on this particular platform and I create the content that I create is because I want to put you in a position to make some money. What we do not do here is we don't do a lot of celebrity cheerleading. We don't do a lot of company cheerleading. Our goal is to understand the markets, to put us in a position to make money and then long term also build wealth. So if that's the reason why you're here, you're in the right place. If you're looking for, the pom-poms and the mini skirt, we don't really do that over here, but you can get a lot of YouTube channels in which they do that. And I would encourage you to go find that type of content. So let's go ahead and get into it. So today was a red day, and I kind of had suspicions that today can be red. I looked at the futures market last night and everything was green. We started the day off. It didn't really start that bad. I don't think the NASDAQ was green from the open. However, a lot of the things turned red over time. And what we saw was the NASDAQ closed down around 2.5%. The Dow was down around 0.10, and the S&P 500 was down 1.04%. We saw the 10-year treasury at 1.59. It's not that bad because we've pretty much been desensitized to that 10-year treasury. However, we want to monitor that to see if it goes back up. And we found out that tech may still be overvalued. We've been seeing a rotation out of tech since the top of the year. What they've been doing is they've been slow draining or slow bleeding tech out since around, I want to say early February. They've used a lot of rationales for it, and now they're just coming out and saying, we're kind of rotating out of tech. A lot of people feel that tech is overvalued, and I can understand that because we talked about when COVID hit around earlier this time last year, saw a lot of money flowing to tech. In fact, tech kind of propped the market up during the COVID issue. And so we saw a lot of capital run to tech. And what we're seeing now is a lot of people are looking to kind of de-risk, move out of tech a little bit because they believe that tech can be overvalued because a lot of the prices for a lot of these companies were literally 10, 15 years, right, to be conservative ahead of what they were currently at as a company. So we saw massive valuations, and what we've seen is that a lot of companies have just been selling off since then. Another thing we want to look at is that there's a pipeline issue, and I may go into that on an individual video because it's a very, very interesting story dealing with this pipeline. And so let's see if that pipeline issue with the cyber attack will impact the energy sector. I've been telling people again, pretty much since the top of the year, I think they're going to try to figure out some reason to bring up the energy sector. And I said that I think that they're going to create some type of scenario. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't deal with conspiracies that don't make me money. So I'm not a fan of knowing secrets that I can't monetize. I'm not a fan of knowing secrets for the sake of knowing secrets. So my idea was I want to continue to observe the energy sector and figure out, are they going to create an incident, whether it's going to be domestic or foreign, that they now can use as a rationale to push up energy, right? So that's what we want to continue to observe. Now let's go into the jump outs. And what we do with jump outs, we want to talk about companies that may have performed really well today or maybe not that well and kind of give you some context. So we're looking at DoorDash. They were around 3% down on the day when they also kept selling off in the aftermarket. And, they have an earnings coming up, I believe, on the 13th later this week. Their last earnings was not great from a profitability standpoint. We want to kind of figure out how are their earnings going to look this quarter? What is going to be their guidance? Because what we're seeing is that as the economy starts to reopen, as restaurants start to reopen, I also got information that the federal government is going to be giving money to restaurants for reopening. How is their guidance going to speak to being able to handle that particular issue? Then also dealing with the competitors like Uber Eats, Postmates, things of that nature. If they weren't really profitable early this year, when essentially the whole economy was closed down, and this probably created a great opportunity for them to really show what they can do with a best case scenario, how are they going to manage an environment where they got to deal with a lot more competitors for the reason that restaurants are now going to be able to open and go back to their normal dine-in environment? So that's going to be really interesting to look at that. I'm in full disclosure, I'm bearish on this particular company with put contracts, and that's not investment advice. If you play that, you probably can lose all of your money. But I just wanted to come out with a disclosure or a disclaimer on my position with this particular company since I'm commenting on it. We're looking at ARK Innovation. And this is something I talked about this weekend with my co-host Erica Williams and the sponsor of Just Stocks Money channel. You should look that up. You should go to Erica Williams at the Classic Climber YouTube, and then she can connect you with that particular channel in which we pretty much talk about stocks. And again, the goal is to allow you to understand the market and put you in a position to make some money. And what we talked about is that the ARK Innovation ETF, which is a tech-based ETF, and it's really, really anchored heavily in Tesla, has been selling off since the top of the year, right? And we talked about, do we anticipate it continuing to sell off? Because with it being so heavily anchored in Tesla, if Tesla's doing bad, then normally it affects the whole ETF. We've seen a rotation out of tech, and this being a heavily tech-based ETF, we'll continue to see it still sell off. So what we saw today is that it gapped down on the open. It was down around 5%. What we want to kind of observe is that where do we think this ETF is going? Because this is another ETF had a meteoric, mispronounced that, had a massive rise because of COVID and a lot of money flowing to the tech sector. Kathy Wood looked like a genius, yada, yada, yada. Okay, that's cool. We're rolling into 2021 as money going out of TEF, money's also going out of this ETF. Okay, so you can try to observe this ETF and maybe try to figure out where do you want to come in at, or do you believe it's going to just continue to sell off and get maybe to the $70 to $80 mark? Now, Southern Copper was another thing that we talked about this weekend, about copper maybe being a growth area because of moving into these alternative energy plays. And they're going to be a big demand and desire for copper as one of the supplies for this particular industry. That was up around 5%. That was abnormal for this particular company. So I would tell you to kind of be wary, because if you look at maybe their 1 year, 2 year chart, it's kind of trading in an abnormal position. But I would tell everybody to really start to look at what is going to be the whole value chain in the alternative energy space, and not just focus on the manufacturers. Maybe look at the whole value chain and how can you take a company that is going to be essential to that particular industry and maybe not be as well known, maybe not be as high profile, but it can be very, very profitable and can figure out how to return a lot of value to its shareholders. Now let's go into the topic, right? And it's going to be the topic of the week, in which we're trying to give you a better insight on the market and try to raise your pragmatic understanding of the market, right? Because a lot of the people that are really savvy in this market, they're not hype people. They're not cheerleaders. They don't really get excited about things outside of making money in the market. Now, you can be in the market for any reason. It's your choice. But what I want to kind of give you is a different perspective on what you may be getting out of the mainstream media. And we're going to talk about billionaire hype and how it can influence the markets. And one of the things you need to understand is that we're living in a world now to where the mainstream power structure is leveraging social media, and they're also leveraging individuals to move the markets, right? And they never really had this ability before because social media wasn't what it was. Social media is getting stronger and stronger every year. It's getting more widespread every year. And it's only going to become more powerful, especially as we move into like virtual reality 3.0. I consider social media virtual reality 2.0. I think virtual reality 3.0, which is going to be very immersive, is going to be even more influential on the lives of people. And essentially what we're going to have is a lot of people are going to elect to opt out of normal society to just live in virtual reality 3.0. That's a totally different discussion that we're not going to go into right now because it doesn't have a lot to do with the markets. But what we're looking at is billionaire hype. And what I mean by that is that individual billionaires have socially promoted themselves and primarily leveraging social media to be very influential in different marketplaces. And so what we're looking at is the crypto market and how Elon Musk has utilized his influence, right, to manipulate. And I don't want people to use manipulation from a negative standpoint. I want you to look at manipulation from the actual definition of manipulation, and has used his influence to manipulate the crypto market, but especially a coin called Dogecoin. And then understanding that he is normally doing that because he has decided that that's the position that he's going to play in our particular society. The question we want to ask ourselves, is this positive or negative based on our position in the market. Okay, so what I want you to do is look at this from multiple perspectives, right? If you're just a person where you're a fan of a CEO, you chose up under a CEO, and if he says buy ABC, you're going to buy ABC because essentially you chose up and you under his instruction. And, I get it. People choose every day, and men do choose to be up under some men. I mean, it is what it is. And I'm not talking about it from like a employer-employee standpoint. I mean, a lot of people have chose Elon Musk. I mean, it is what it is. I know the game. It is what it is, right? So if Elon Musk tells you and gives you instructions that you need to buy Dogecoin, you're going to go buy Dogecoin because that's the instructions of the person that you chose. I mean, it is what it is. So that's one perspective. Another perspective is Elon Musk has essentially been assigned by the power structure to come into the crypto market and essentially destabilize the crypto market. And what's interesting is that cryptocurrency was created by a lot of, libertarian, anti-system, anti-centralized banking, anti-centralization type figures. But what we're seeing now is it's going more towards centralization. And what do I mean by centralization? Where individual people now have a massive amount of influence over the whole market. So when one person can go into the crypto market and essentially influence it and have essentially an outside or a disproportionate influence on the market, that is a form of centralization, right? Because crypto was designed to be autonomous. It was designed to be anonymous. It wasn't allowed for one person or one group of people to have an undue amount of influence, because a lot of people felt like that's what was wrong with some of the traditional financial markets, right? Where a Jerome Powell can make a statement and then the whole market either sells off or becomes very bullish based on his statement. So crypto was designed to get away from that. Well, what are we seeing now? We're going back to that. And what a lot of people got to understand is that a lot of times when you have a grassroots movement that is starting to get momentum, is starting to get power, the mainstream will seek to first, if they can, destabilize that grassroots movement. If they can't destabilize it and marginalize it, right, what they now look to do is adopt it, because by adopting it, they will marginalize it and destabilize it. So what we're seeing in crypto is billionaire hype. So Elon Musk now becomes a proponent or a cheerleader for Dogecoin. Then what he does now is he makes people believe that he's going to do some type of event that is going to promote Dogecoin. Now what he's talking about is that we're going to have a specific, I think, some type of rocket launch that's going to be based around the whole financing of the launch is going to be paid for with Dogecoin. Now ask yourself, why is a man who's supposed to be the CEO of, what they call an energy company in quotes, but it really is a car manufacturing company, why is he concerned with Dogecoin? Like, he doesn't have enough on his plate. But in my opinion, he has been assigned to influence this particular market in an effort to marginalize and destabilize this market. Right. And it's not because they're trying to destroy the market. It's because they want to control over the market. Right. The traditional financial powers, they don't want to lose control over any currency market. So it doesn't matter what currency market it is. They want control over the market because that's the game they're playing. OK, so we may have some people individually that may become, have some type of financial success from Dogecoin because they're able to ride the momentum of it. But the question is, long term, what will billionaire hype have influence over this particular market? If billionaires feel like I can come in and influence this market in the direction that I want it to go, right? Well, what is the fundamentals of the market now? Because I thought the fundamentals of crypto was that it was going to be decentralized. You weren't going to have individuals that can exert undue influence on the market. It was supposed to be a level of autonomy, a level of anonymous behavior in the market. It was just supposed to be based on a actual market, a free market, supply and demand for these particular currencies to exchange goods and services. When personalities cannot come into the market and exert influence on it. So now the question is, what are the fundamentals of the market again? So you want to really pay attention to this type of stuff. Now, the question is, how do we make money off of this? What I'm looking for is, one, I need the crypto exchanges to become more evolved from a derivative standpoint. Why? because I want to be able to take shorts on these particular securities or cryptocurrencies. And what we're seeing is a lack of sophistication with a lot of the exchanges to provide those type of services, because they haven't really been immersed with the actual market-based participants to where we can really do this, right? So there are some exchanges where they claim that you can buy options or you can short these particular securities. But a lot of the ways that they operate, I'm not really comfortable with by the way in which I have to exchange funds with them. But what I'm looking for as a way to make money is that what is going to be the next, I would call, hype currency that individuals or participants in the market can exert some type of influence on it and run it up. And then how can I play the downside of it? Right? Because what we're going to see is that there's going to be an effort by the powers that be to marginalize this space. And part of that marginalization is going to make it very volatile, because what they want to do is they want to scare people within the market. So then they can become more and more entrenched in it and have the regular people start to leave it, because they're going to feel like, hey, it's just like every other environment. I don't really feel safe and secure in this market. And then they're going to seek out a control mechanism over the market so they can feel more safe and secure. So while they're doing that, my goal is, how can I make money in this particular scenario? I don't care about them doing it. I care about how I can make money while they're doing it, because I believe they're going to do it. And I believe Elon Musk is going to be the first iteration of this happening over and over and over and over again until they can get to where they want to go. But I don't believe for a second that the powers that be want a currency market that they don't have a massive amount of control over. I don't think they're comfortable with that. And one thing, if you really study power and how it works, is anytime there's a grassroots movement, if they can't marginalize it or undermine it initially, what they look to do is adopt it. And if they can adopt it, right, then they can work to undermine it and marginalize it over time, because it becomes their message as opposed to the message of the grassroots. So you really want to understand that. So that's going to be the topic of the day: billionaire hype and how it can influence the markets. And I want to really encourage you, when you're looking at a situation like the cryptocurrency market and you're seeing billionaires hype it up, don't get caught up on what they're doing. Don't get caught up in trying to expose the fact that they're doing it. Focus on how you can make money out of the scenario, because they're going to do it anyway, because this particular execution, this particular action is coming from a particular command structure that is way outside of us. So we can't stop them from doing it anyway. OK, so once you understand what the bigger picture is being played out, don't be a conspiracy theorist for the sake of being a conspiracy theorist. Understand what the conspiracy is, and then put yourself in a position to make money from the conspiracy, because the conspiracy is going to happen regardless of what you do anyway. So this is going to be Market Mondays for 5/10/2021. If you know somebody that can get value from it, share it out. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know if you want to get more information on the highest paid part-time job in the world. The VIP course pre-sale is ending, I think, at the end of this week on Friday. That particular video for that particular course is on the channel. If you have any questions, hit me up. This is David W. Williams.